If you think you know everything about Meghan Markle, think again. For years, the former Suits actress turned Duchess of Sussex has been under intense public scrutiny. She's the embodiment of royal scandal and media frenzy, her life playing out like a modern-day soap opera. But recently, a new twist in Meghan Markle's story has sent shockwaves across the globe. This time, it's not the tabloids or royal rumors that have her in the spotlight, but a video, a raw, unfiltered glimpse into a side of Meghan Markle that no one saw coming. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. For those who have followed her journey, from her rise as an actress on the hit show Suits to her fairy tale marriage with Prince Harry, Meghan Markle has always been portrayed as a woman of grace and dignity. She's the one who broke royal protocol, the one who defied expectations, the one who stood up for what she believed in, often with a sense of purpose and empowerment. But what if the real Meghan Markle is far from the poised, charitable figure the public has come to know? The recent release of a video by Meghan's estranged father, Thomas Markle, has turned the tables, revealing a different side of the woman who captivated the world's attention. In the footage, Meghan Markle is seen on set of Suits, directing the crew, not with the gentle grace one would expect from a future royal, but with a bossy attitude that borders on bullying. It's a far cry from the charming and likable personality she's spent years cultivating in the public eye. The video shows her controlling the crew with an iron fist, issuing demands in a way that is far from the diplomatic demeanor we've come to expect from her. But why did Thomas Markle decide to release this shocking video now? Is it an act of revenge for his estrangement from his daughter? Or does this video reveal a darker, hidden truth about Meghan Markle's behavior that has been carefully concealed for years? There are so many questions, and the answers may not be as simple as they seem. What makes this video even more explosive is that it's not just any casual behind-the-scenes footage. This is a raw, unpolished video that shows a side of Meghan Markle that fans and critics alike have never seen before. It contradicts the image that Meghan has worked tirelessly to craft: the compassionate advocate for women's rights, the charitable humanitarian, the loving wife and mother. The video reveals a bossy, demanding, and, at times, downright aggressive version of the woman the world has admired. This footage does not align with the graceful, poised public persona she's spent years building. For those who have followed Meghan's life, this is more than just a scandal, it's a revelation. A woman who has built her brand on empowerment, equality, and kindness is now being accused of bullying the very people she worked alongside. The accusations are serious. Are they true? Is this a case of someone who has been pushed too far by the pressures of fame and royalty, or is there something darker beneath the surface? Meghan Markle has been no stranger to controversy. From her marriage to Prince Harry, which caused a stir in the royal family, to her outspoken views on the media and her struggle to balance public life with personal freedom, Meghan has never been one to shy away from the spotlight. Yet, despite the scandals, she has often been seen as a victim of circumstance, a woman who is misunderstood, misrepresented, and under constant attack. But now, with this video, the narrative is shifting. The public is beginning to see a different side to Meghan, a side that may not fit the carefully constructed image she has worked so hard to portray. This video is not just a moment in time, it's a glimpse into the reality of the pressure and stress that comes with living in the public eye. It's a reflection of how fame can warp people, how the desire for control can change even the most empathetic individuals. The footage is disturbing, to say the least, but it also serves as a stark reminder that public personas are often just that, performances. Behind the carefully curated Instagram posts, the well-scripted speeches, and the glossy magazine covers, there's often a different story waiting to be told. But what about the source of the video? Thomas Markle, Meghan's estranged father, is not exactly a figure known for his tact or diplomacy. His public feud with Meghan has played out in the media for years, with accusations, insults, and hurt feelings exchanged between father and daughter. For many, Thomas Markle's decision to release this video may seem like a desperate attempt to get back at his daughter, a way to publicly shame her for cutting him out of her life. But could there be more to this than just a family drama? Is this video a genuine attempt to reveal the truth? Or is it simply a means for Thomas to settle a personal vendetta? As the public begins to digest the video and the accusations it contains, the questions only grow. Was Meghan Markle truly a bully on set? Or is this just one isolated incident taken out of context? The truth, as always, may be somewhere in between. Meghan has long been portrayed as a woman of strength and resilience, someone who defied the odds to marry into the royal family. But this video forces us to reconsider the narrative. It makes us question whether Meghan Markle's journey to fame was as flawless as it seemed, or if, perhaps, it was marked by moments of tension, stress, and even cruelty. For years, Meghan has been viewed through a lens of sympathy, her struggles with the press, her battles with royal life, and her efforts to create a space for herself in a world that has often been unwelcoming. But now, the story is shifting. The sympathetic narrative is being replaced by one that asks, what if Meghan Markle isn't the victim after all? What if, behind the glamour and the headlines, lies a woman who is not as perfect as we've been led to believe? The video is just the beginning. As more details emerge, the public will be forced to confront the uncomfortable truth about Meghan Markle. Was she a victim of circumstance? Or is there a darker, more complex story waiting to be uncovered? The release of this video has changed everything, and it's clear that Meghan's carefully constructed image may not be enough to protect her this time. This shocking new twist in the Meghan Markle saga will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about her. It's a reminder that even the most seemingly perfect public figures have their flaws. And as the video continues to make waves across social media and the news, one thing is clear: the story of Meghan Markle is far from over. Meghan Markle's rise to fame didn't happen overnight, but it was a journey that began long before her marriage to Prince Harry and the whirlwind media frenzy that would follow. It all started in 2011, when she landed the role of Rachel Zane on Suits, a legal drama that would go on to define her career as an actress. But while the show might have been the springboard for her fame, it was Meghan's personal qualities, her beauty, her intelligence, and her charisma that caught the attention of the world. At the time, Suits was just another legal drama, albeit a stylish one. Set in the high-pressure world of a New York City law firm, the series revolved around talented college dropout Mike Ross, played by Patrick J. Adams, who lands a job at a prestigious firm despite never attending law school. Meghan's character, Rachel Zane, was an ambitious paralegal working her way up in the firm. She quickly became one of the show's most beloved characters, known for her wit, determination, and charm. It wasn't long before the public started taking notice of the actress who portrayed her. Meghan's role on Suits wasn't groundbreaking in the way some other television roles were. She wasn't the star, and she wasn't playing the lead. But something about her was magnetic. Her beauty and poise, combined with a level of sophistication that transcended her role as a paralegal, made her stand out from the ensemble cast. She wasn't just another actress, she was someone the audience felt they could connect with. Over the course of the show's run, Meghan's character developed into someone more than just a pretty face. Rachel Zane became an integral part of the series, with a backstory that explored themes of ambition, relationships, and personal growth. As Meghan's career continued to flourish, so did her popularity. In an industry where many actors and actresses are often relegated to typecasting, Meghan managed to carve out a niche for herself. It was clear that her time on Suits was just one part of a much bigger picture. But despite the fame that came with being on a successful television show, Meghan never seemed entirely comfortable in the Hollywood spotlight. She rarely attended red carpet events, and she kept her personal life largely private. This would later be one of the defining characteristics of her public persona, the actress who seemed to want it all, but on her own terms. During her time on Suits, Meghan was much more than just a rising star. She was also building a life outside of acting, one that would eventually intersect with global politics, charity work, and royal life. She was an outspoken advocate for women's rights, and she used her platform to speak on issues of gender equality and social justice. She was also a philanthropist, involved in numerous charitable causes long before her royal ties. Meghan's work with the United Nations and her passion for humanitarian issues were notable even in those early days. But despite all of her efforts, she was still, in the public eye, just another actress. What made Meghan stand out, however, was her blend of Hollywood glamour and activism. She was the rare actress who didn't just take on roles that were glamorous. She also used her platform to bring attention to causes that were important to her. Her role as a UN women's advocate for political participation and leadership was just one example of her commitment to empowering women around the world. And it wasn't long before she became the face of various campaigns and initiatives, from global water crisis efforts to clean energy and more. But for all her growing influence, Meghan's time on Suits was not without its challenges. Like many other actresses before her, she faced the reality of Hollywood's beauty standards, as well as the often harsh scrutiny of the media. She was frequently critiqued for her looks, with some media outlets focusing on her racial identity. She's biracial, with an African-American mother and a white father, and how that shaped her experiences in the entertainment industry. In interviews, Meghan spoke candidly about the challenges she faced being a woman of color in Hollywood, noting how she often felt like she had to prove herself in ways her white colleagues didn't. Despite these challenges, Meghan was determined to make her mark. She wasn't going to let Hollywood's biases define her or limit her career. In interviews, she would often talk about how she used her platform to address social issues, from gender equality to racial justice. It was clear that Meghan saw herself as more than just a television star. She saw herself as someone who could use her fame to make a positive impact. But just as her career was gaining momentum, another major change was on the horizon. Meghan's journey took an unexpected turn when she met Prince Harry. Behind the glamorous lights and polished performances on Suits, the set was a world of its own, intense, fast-paced, and brimming with creative energy. It was a place where the line between character and actor often blurred, and the pressure to perform at the highest level was palpable. For the cast and crew, it was just another day at the office. But for Meghan Markle, it was more than just work. It was the platform on which she would build her career, and a space where she would be challenged in ways she never expected. The set of Suits was known for its high standards. The actors and crew worked long hours to ensure that each episode met the demands of both the story and the audience. Meghan, as one of the core members of the cast, was no stranger to the intensity. But as the show gained popularity, so did the pressure. It wasn't just about getting the lines right or delivering the perfect performance. It was about managing expectations from producers, from her fellow cast members, and from herself. Meghan was deeply invested in the success of Suits, and her role as Rachel Zane was more than just a job to her. It was an opportunity to showcase her talent and to prove that she had what it took to make it in Hollywood. For Meghan, acting wasn't just about fame or recognition. It was about embodying a character who had depth, who faced challenges, and who grew over time. Rachel Zane's character was smart, determined, and incredibly ambitious, much like Meghan herself. It wasn't hard to see why the two were so closely aligned. But with the show's success came a shift in dynamics. As the spotlight grew brighter, Meghan found herself in a new, more challenging position. She was no longer just an actress playing a role. She was now a public figure, someone who had to navigate the pressures of fame while trying to maintain control over her personal and professional life. On the set, Meghan's presence was undeniable. She wasn't just another actress who showed up for her scenes and went home at the end of the day. Meghan was involved. She cared deeply about the work, and it showed. Her fellow cast members often spoke about her dedication and her drive, noting that Meghan would go above and beyond to ensure the quality of her work. She was never the type of person to simply phone it in. Whether it was working late into the night on a difficult scene or making sure every detail of her character was just right, Meghan poured herself into the show. But with her dedication came a demand for excellence that some found overwhelming. Meghan was known for being a perfectionist, a quality that can be both a strength and a weakness. On one hand, it meant that she was always striving for the best, constantly pushing herself to be better. On the other hand, it meant that she could sometimes come across as difficult to work with. There were times when her drive for perfection clashed with the realities of working on a tight schedule with a large team. And this was when the cracks began to show. Some of the crew members, particularly those working behind the scenes, found Meghan's insistence on perfection to be frustrating. They spoke about her demanding nature, how she would often question decisions that didn't align with her vision for a scene. There were whispers of tension, of moments where Meghan would raise her voice in frustration if things weren't going the way she wanted. It wasn't uncommon for Meghan to get into heated discussions with the directors or producers if she felt that a particular scene wasn't being handled correctly. Her intensity, while admirable in some respects, sometimes made it hard for those around her to keep up. But it wasn't just her intensity that caused friction. Meghan had a reputation for being bossy. While many saw this as a sign of her confidence and ambition, others felt that it was a bit too much. On set, it wasn't uncommon for Meghan to take charge, especially when she felt that things were not going according to plan. She would often take it upon herself to organize things, to tell people what needed to be done, and to make sure everything was running smoothly, at least from her perspective. For the crew, this was a double-edged sword. On the one hand, Meghan's hands-on approach meant that she was deeply invested in the show. She was involved in every aspect of the production, from rehearsals to the final cut. Her attention to detail was something that many of the actors appreciated. But for those working behind the scenes, it often felt like Meghan was overstepping her bounds. She was not just an actress. She was acting like she was in charge, and that didn't always sit well with others. The dynamic between Meghan and her co-stars was similarly complex. While she got along with many of them, there were also reports of tension. Some actors felt that Meghan's bossy tendencies bled into their scenes, and they struggled to collaborate with someone who was constantly trying to steer the ship. In one instance, a fellow actor reportedly had to step in and assert control when Meghan's demands became too much during a scene rehearsal. It wasn't that Meghan didn't know her place. It was just that she had a hard time letting go and trusting others to do their job. As the seasons of Suits went on, Meghan's role on the show became increasingly important, both in terms of her character's development and her involvement in the production itself. The spotlight was on her, and it wasn't always easy to balance the expectations placed on her. But despite the challenges, Meghan remained focused on her work. She knew that she had an opportunity to make something of herself in the industry, and she wasn't going to let anyone stand in her way. Her dedication to Suits was unwavering, even as her personal life began to draw more and more attention. But as Meghan's fame continued to rise, so did the pressure. And it was in this pressure cooker of fame, ambition, and creative tension that the true Meghan Markle began to emerge, the side of her that would eventually become the subject of controversy, the side that would later be exposed in shocking videos and public scandals. The release of the video by Meghan Markle's estranged father, Thomas Markle, sent shockwaves through the media. The video, which was recorded during Meghan's time on the set of Suits, offered a rare and intimate glimpse into her behavior that no one had ever seen before. It's one thing to hear rumors, to read about tensions on set, and to speculate about what goes on behind closed doors, but it's another thing entirely to witness it firsthand. For those who had followed Meghan's rise to fame and her carefully crafted image as a poised and elegant woman, the video was a complete contradiction. In the footage, Meghan Markle is seen acting in a way that many found shocking and hard to reconcile with the public persona she had built. Gone was the picture of the composed, calm actress who had worked hard to build a brand of empowerment, equality, and grace. Instead, what was revealed was a bossy, demanding, and often rude individual who seemed more interested in controlling the set than collaborating with her colleagues. The video begins innocuously enough. It starts with Meghan standing near a group of crew members, talking through a scene. At first, everything seems normal. Meghan is discussing the logistics of the shoot, offering some suggestions, and engaging with the team. But as the video continues, her tone shifts. It becomes clear that Meghan is no longer simply offering input. She is taking charge in a way that feels less like constructive direction and more like control. Throughout the video, Meghan is seen barking orders at the crew, telling them how things should be done, and making it clear that her way is the only acceptable way. There's no room for negotiation, no room for compromise. Meghan's tone becomes sharper, her demands more specific, and it's evident that she's not interested in hearing any dissenting opinions. Her body language is forceful, and her facial expressions reveal frustration and impatience with the people around her. One particular moment in the video stands out. A scene in which Meghan is speaking to a crew member who appears to be trying to clarify something. The crew member asks a simple question, but Meghan's response is laced with condescension. She doesn't just provide an answer. She makes it clear that the crew member's question is unnecessary, almost as if they should have already known the answer. The exchange is uncomfortable to watch. Meghan's impatience is palpable, and there's a sense that she views the crew as nothing more than a means to an end. A group of people whose sole purpose is to serve her vision without question. What's even more startling is how Meghan's behavior escalates as the video progresses. The crew members, who were once eager to work with her, start to show signs of discomfort. Some of them exchange glances, while others appear to retreat into themselves, trying to avoid direct confrontation. It's clear that Meghan's behavior is beginning to affect the morale of the crew. What had started as a seemingly routine production day is slowly turning into a tense environment, with Meghan at the center of it all. This video paints a starkly different picture of Meghan Markle than the one the public has come to know. For years, she has been portrayed as the compassionate, self-assured woman who advocates for others, particularly women and marginalized communities. She has spoken at length about her desire to break down barriers and use her platform for good. Yet, in this video, it seems as though the only person Meghan is concerned with is herself. There's no sign of the warmth and empathy she often projects in public. Instead, what we see is a woman who demands perfection, who expects others to bend to her will without question. What makes this video even more surprising is that it was released by none other than Thomas Markle, Meghan's estranged father. Their relationship has been fraught with tension for years, with Meghan cutting ties with her father after a series of public feuds and controversies. For many, Thomas Markle's decision to release the video seemed like a calculated move, a way for him to get back at his daughter for her very public distancing from him. But for others, it raised a more significant question. Why would Thomas Markle, who has publicly expressed regret over his fractured relationship with Meghan, choose this moment to release such a damning piece of footage? Was this a vendetta? Or was it something deeper? Was Thomas Markle trying to expose a side of his daughter that had been hidden from the public for years? The release of the video triggered a cascade of reactions, with people questioning the authenticity of the footage and its implications for Meghan's carefully curated public image. Was this a momentary lapse in behavior, or did it reveal a deeper pattern of conduct that Meghan had managed to keep under wraps? The timing of the video's release also raised eyebrows. It came at a time when Meghan's relationship with the media was already strained, and when she had been embroiled in several high-profile controversies, including her departure from royal duties and her strained relationship with the British royal family. Many saw this as another attack on her public image, one that would further tarnish her reputation and cast doubt on the persona she had so carefully constructed. But what was perhaps most disturbing about the video was how it mirrored some of the things Meghan had been accused of before. Over the years, there have been whispers of Meghan's difficult behavior behind the scenes, rumors of her being demanding, of not always getting along with others, and of her expecting special treatment. These accusations had often been dismissed as nothing more than tabloid fodder, or the result of jealousy from those who resented her newfound fame. But this video, with its raw, unfiltered look at Meghan's behavior, made those accusations feel much more real. The fact that the video was released by Thomas Markle only added fuel to the fire. For many, it seemed like a betrayal, a way for Meghan's father to expose her flaws in the most public way possible. But for others, it was a reminder that no one is above scrutiny, and that even public figures who project an image of perfection can have moments of weakness and vulnerability. The video has sparked intense debate across the globe. Meghan's supporters have defended her, arguing that the footage is just a snapshot of a stressful day on set, and that it doesn't accurately reflect her true character. They point out that working in a high-pressure environment like a TV set can bring out the best and worst in people, and that Meghan's behavior in the video was nothing more than an isolated incident. Others, however, see the video as proof of a pattern of behavior that has been hidden for too long. They argue that it exposes Meghan for what she really is, a woman who is not as compassionate or empathetic as she would like the world to believe. The questions surrounding the video are far from settled, and as more details continue to emerge, the public will be forced to grapple with the reality of Meghan Markle's true character. Was the woman we saw in that video a one-time anomaly, or is it the side of Meghan that we've been missing all along? The release of this footage has changed the narrative, and whether Meghan can recover from it remains to be seen. The relationship between Meghan Markle and her father, Thomas Markle, has been nothing short of tumultuous. It has played out in the public eye for years, filled with moments of deep emotion, public accusations, and strained attempts at reconciliation. What makes their relationship so complicated is not just the family dynamic, but the public nature of their estrangement, something that has been continuously broadcasted across media outlets and social platforms. Their fractured relationship has been a defining element in the story of Meghan's life, especially after her marriage to Prince Harry thrust her into the royal spotlight. At the heart of this saga lies the central question: why did Meghan and Thomas Markle become estranged? The short answer is a combination of personal decisions, media involvement, and public scandal. But beneath that, there are layers of miscommunication, hurt feelings, and unresolved family tensions that have led to a deeply divided father-daughter relationship. Thomas Markle, a retired lighting director who worked in Hollywood, was once a prominent figure in Meghan's life. Meghan often spoke about her close relationship with her father growing up. She described him as a supportive and loving parent, one who provided her with the guidance and encouragement she needed to pursue her dreams. There are even interviews where Meghan praises her father for his sacrifices and the lessons he taught her about hard work and dedication. But that all changed when Meghan's life began to change in the public eye. The tipping point came in the months leading up to Meghan's wedding to Prince Harry in May 2018. Thomas Markle, who had been living a relatively quiet life in Mexico, found himself thrust into the spotlight when it was revealed that he had staged paparazzi photos in exchange for money. The scandal was a huge blow to Meghan, who had hoped to keep her family's private matters out of the media. It was a betrayal, one that Meghan couldn't overlook, especially as it came at a time when she was preparing for one of the most important days of her life. In the wake of the paparazzi scandal, Meghan made the decision to cut ties with her father. Despite attempts at communication, including a heartfelt letter from Meghan, their relationship continued to deteriorate. The public nature of their fallout only made things worse. Thomas Markle, feeling abandoned and hurt, began speaking to the media about Meghan and her husband, Prince Harry, sharing intimate details about their relationship, including accusations that Meghan had cut him off entirely. For many, Thomas Markle's decision to speak out against Meghan was seen as a betrayal of his own daughter. He claimed that Meghan had not responded to his messages and had refused to meet with him, even though he was reportedly heartbroken over their strained relationship. But for Meghan, her decision to distance herself from her father was based on a feeling of betrayal and hurt. She had hoped to protect her family from the public scrutiny that came with her royal life, but her father's actions made it impossible for her to maintain that boundary. In the years since the wedding, the relationship between Meghan and Thomas Markle has remained rocky. Thomas has continued to give interviews, making public pleas for reconciliation, while Meghan has largely remained silent on the matter. She has rarely spoken about her father in public, and when she has, it has often been in a context that underscores the pain of their estrangement. Meghan has spoken about the toll that the public nature of their fallout has taken on her, noting that it was incredibly difficult for her to come to terms with her father's behavior and his willingness to go to the press. But despite the ongoing tension, Thomas Markle's recent release of the video showing Meghan's behavior on the set of Suits raises new questions. Why did he choose this moment to release such a damaging video? For many, it feels like a final act of retribution, an attempt to get back at Meghan for the way she has treated him. But could there be more to it than just revenge? Could Thomas Markle be trying to reveal a side of Meghan that has remained hidden from the public? It's important to consider the timing of the video's release. The fallout from Meghan and Harry's departure from royal duties has already cast a long shadow over their public image. The couple has faced intense media scrutiny, with many questioning their motivations in their decision to step away from the royal family. Meghan, in particular, has been the subject of harsh criticism, with accusations of hypocrisy and self-interest. The release of the video could be seen as an attempt to add fuel to the fire, to expose Meghan as someone who is not the charitable, graceful woman she appears to be. On the other hand, it's also possible that Thomas Markle is simply trying to clear his name. For years, he has been portrayed as the villain in this family drama, the father who sold out his daughter for a few moments of media attention. But the video casts a different light on Meghan's own behavior, making it harder to dismiss Thomas Markle as simply a bitter, vengeful father. The video raises questions about Meghan's character and whether she is as compassionate and empathetic as she claims to be. As the public digests the implications of the video, it's clear that the story of Meghan Markle's relationship with her father is far from over. The video has only added another layer of complexity to their already fraught dynamic. For Meghan, the video represents yet another betrayal, this time not from her father, but from the very public that she has tried to protect herself from. For Thomas, it may be his final attempt to make people understand his side of the story, to show that he, too, has been hurt by the choices his daughter has made. In the end, the release of this video is not just about the father-daughter relationship. It's about the larger story of how public figures, particularly those in the royal spotlight, navigate the complexities of family, fame, and media scrutiny. The fallout from this video may continue for some time, but it serves as a stark reminder that even the most carefully constructed public personas are often built on fragile foundations, and that behind every story of success and triumph, there are deeper, more personal struggles at play. As Meghan Markle's career continued to flourish, her time on Suits was often described as a period of growth, both professionally and personally. But beyond the glossy images and the carefully curated public appearances, there was a more complex side to her time on the set of the popular legal drama. Meghan's reputation as an actress grew, but so did her reputation for being bossy, demanding, and difficult to work with at times. It's not uncommon for actors to take their roles seriously, to get deeply involved in the creative process, and to push for the best possible results. However, Meghan's involvement on set extended beyond what was expected of her. While many actors focus on their performances and leave the production aspects to directors and crew members, Meghan was known for being particularly hands-on. She became deeply invested in every part of the show, and it often felt as though she was managing more than just her own performance. She was managing the set, the production, and the crew. Her tendency to micromanage didn't go unnoticed by her co-stars or the crew behind the scenes. It was clear that Meghan's vision for her character and for the show was strong, perhaps stronger than what was comfortable for some of the other cast and crew members. Meghan's desire for perfection led her to be involved in many aspects of the production process, from consulting with the directors to even offering feedback on scripts and production decisions. While some of her co-stars admired her for her passion and dedication, others found her overbearing. It's easy to understand why someone like Meghan, who had worked hard to break into Hollywood, would want to ensure that everything was going according to her vision. She didn't just want to be an actress. She wanted to be a part of something that was meaningful, something that had an impact. But in her pursuit of excellence, Meghan sometimes crossed the line. She began to push her co-stars and crew members harder than they were comfortable with, demanding that the work be done according to her standards. This behavior, while not entirely uncommon in high-stress Hollywood environments, didn't sit well with everyone. Some co-stars spoke of Meghan's habit of demanding specific takes, getting frustrated with directors when things weren't done her way, and not always being open to collaboration. While many actors are known to be perfectionists, Meghan's perfectionism often manifested in ways that made the set feel tense. She was no longer just an actress reading lines. She was acting like she was in charge, as if she were directing the show herself. The crew, too, began to feel the effects of Meghan's bossy attitude. Set workers, who are often the unsung heroes of any production, have a tough job as it is handling the logistics, setting up equipment, making sure everything runs smoothly behind the scenes. But with Meghan's growing influence, some of them found themselves at the receiving end of her demands. It wasn't just about ensuring that the shot was perfect. It was about her vision for the entire production. And when things didn't go according to plan, Meghan didn't hesitate to express her frustration. This created a divide on set. While there were those who admired Meghan for her passion and dedication, there were others who began to dread working with her. She wasn't the only cast member who cared about the show, but it became apparent that she cared more than anyone else. It wasn't just about acting anymore. It was about controlling the narrative of the production, making sure it aligned with her own vision. For some, Meghan's behavior was a sign of her professionalism, her drive to create something extraordinary. For others, it felt like an overwhelming amount of pressure. Meghan's perfectionism, combined with her need to have control over every aspect of the show, created an environment that some found difficult to work in. And as the show gained more attention and Meghan's star power grew, the intensity of her behavior only increased. Co-stars who had initially respected Meghan's work ethic and commitment to the show began to speak more openly about her difficult behavior. Reports emerged of Meghan having tense exchanges with other actors during rehearsals, of her pushing for scenes to be done her way, and of her openly questioning the decisions made by directors. While Meghan's role in the show was important, it became clear that her involvement in every decision was starting to alienate the people around her. In interviews, some of her co-stars described their experiences working with Meghan as challenging but rewarding. They admired her dedication and her ability to bring her character to life, but they also spoke about the difficulties of navigating her intense personality. Meghan was not the kind of person who would let things slide or allow others to take charge if she thought it wasn't in line with her vision. She was determined to make sure that everything was perfect, and if that meant stepping on toes along the way, so be it. This bossy reputation wasn't something that simply appeared on the set of Suits. Meghan had been outspoken about her desire for control in other areas of her life as well. From her charity work to her personal endeavors, Meghan was known for being deeply involved in every detail. She wanted things done a certain way, and she wasn't afraid to speak up when she felt things weren't going according to plan. While some might argue that this kind of behavior is common in Hollywood, where the competition is fierce and the pressure is immense, it was clear that Meghan's desire for control extended beyond the typical expectations. She was no longer just an actress. It seemed like she was trying to shape the entire production. And for some, that was a line that shouldn't have been crossed. As the series progressed and Meghan's time on Suits began to wind down, her reputation for being a perfectionist and a bossy figure only grew. Her colleagues knew that they had to meet her high standards, but the toll it took on the set was becoming evident. The fun, collaborative spirit of the production had begun to fade, replaced by an underlying tension that stemmed from Meghan's overpowering presence. When the video of Meghan Markle surfaced, showing her assertive, sometimes domineering behavior on the set of Suits, the reaction was immediate. For many, it wasn't just about the incident itself. It was about the deeper implications of what the footage represented. The video raised serious questions about Meghan's character, suggesting that her behavior on set went beyond the typical challenges of working in a high-pressure environment. Was Meghan Markle simply a perfectionist who demanded the best, or was she crossing a line into bullying? The concept of bullying in Hollywood is not new. Many actors, directors, and crew members have been accused of creating toxic work environments, whether through harsh behavior, unreasonable demands, or creating a culture of fear and anxiety. But bullying is a loaded word, especially when it comes to public figures like Meghan. It's a term that carries significant weight, and for Meghan to be associated with it, even in the context of a single incident, is a serious charge. In the case of Meghan Markle, the allegations were multifaceted. On one hand, there was the question of her treatment of crew members on the set of Suits. Meghan's behavior, as evidenced in the video, was often described as demanding, controlling, and, at times, impatient. These qualities are not uncommon in the entertainment industry, especially for those in leading roles. After all, many actors are under tremendous pressure to deliver performances that satisfy both directors and audiences. But for those on the receiving end of Meghan's demands, her behavior seemed to go beyond what was reasonable. Reports from those who worked with Meghan on set spoke about the tensions that often arose between her and other members of the production team. One recurring complaint was that Meghan often overstepped her role as an actress and took control of aspects of the production that weren't necessarily her responsibility. While many actors are known for offering input into their characters or the overall vision of a project, Meghan's hands-on approach sometimes left others feeling like their expertise was being disregarded. There were multiple reports of Meghan requesting multiple takes for scenes, not because she was trying to perfect her performance, but because she was not satisfied with how the scene was progressing overall. She would often step in to offer suggestions that contradicted the director's vision or to challenge creative decisions that had already been made. In some cases, she reportedly clashed with directors, refusing to compromise on her interpretation of a scene. For some, this was a sign of passion and commitment to her craft. But for others, it felt like a power play, an attempt to assert control over something that wasn't her responsibility. Another accusation that surfaced was Meghan's treatment of fellow cast members. While many of her co-stars spoke highly of her dedication to her work, there were others who described her behavior as intimidating. Some actors found Meghan's intensity overwhelming, especially when she pushed them to deliver performances that aligned with her vision. In one particular instance, an actor described Meghan as demanding, noting that she would often get frustrated when things didn't go according to plan. She was never one to let things slide, and while that may have been a sign of her commitment to excellence, it sometimes rubbed others the wrong way. But it wasn't just her behavior on set that raised concerns. Meghan was also criticized for the way she interacted with the crew. While some actors take the time to engage with crew members, offering gratitude and recognition for their hard work, Meghan was often described as distant. Crew members who had worked with her spoke about her aloofness, noting that while she would demand high standards from everyone around her, she rarely acknowledged their contributions. It was as though she viewed the crew as simply a means to an end, people who were there to execute her vision, rather than collaborators in the process. This, of course, didn't sit well with many of those who worked behind the scenes. Crew members are the unsung heroes of any production. They are the ones who make the magic happen, handling everything from lighting to sound to set design. For Meghan to treat them as if their input didn't matter or wasn't valued was seen by some as a form of subtle bullying. It wasn't overt or aggressive in the way some might think of traditional bullying, but it was a form of power imbalance that left some feeling small and unappreciated. The video provided a glimpse into this behavior, but it was the stories from crew members and co-stars that painted a fuller picture. It became clear that Meghan's demanding nature wasn't limited to a single incident. It was part of a broader pattern of behavior that many felt crossed the line into unprofessionalism. But the question remained, was Meghan Markle a bully, or was she simply someone who demanded the best from herself and those around her? The challenge in labeling Meghan's behavior as bullying lies in the complexity of the entertainment industry itself. In Hollywood, where success is often tied to performance and public perception, it's easy for someone's behavior to be interpreted in different ways. A director might see an actor's assertiveness as a sign of passion, while a co-star might perceive the same behavior as domineering. In Meghan's case, it seems that her behavior was interpreted differently depending on the perspective of those around her. For those who worked closely with Meghan, her behavior may have been frustrating at times, but it didn't cross the line into bullying. They saw her as a perfectionist, someone who cared deeply about her work and wasn't afraid to push herself and others to get the best results. But for those on the periphery, her demanding attitude may have come across as oppressive. The video, which captured a moment of frustration, seemed to confirm what many had already suspected. Meghan wasn't just a diva, she was someone who needed to control every aspect of the production. It's important to note that bullying isn't always about physical aggression or overt verbal attacks. Sometimes, it's about subtle power plays, about creating an environment where others feel unable to speak up, unable to disagree, or unable to push back. In Meghan's case, her constant demands and her disregard for the opinions of others created a climate of fear for some on set. It wasn't about insults or physical intimidation. It was about creating an environment where those around her felt powerless to challenge her. As the video made its rounds on social media, the debate over Meghan's behavior only grew. Was she a victim of the high demands of the entertainment industry, or was she, in fact, the perpetrator of a toxic environment on set? The public was left to decide for themselves. But one thing was clear, this video was just the beginning of a larger conversation about what it means to be a powerful woman in Hollywood, and the cost of that power. When Thomas Markle released the video showing his daughter Meghan Markle's domineering behavior on the set of Suits, the public response was immediate and overwhelming. In a world that is so focused on the lives of celebrities, especially those in the royal family, such a leak was bound to create a media frenzy. The video went viral almost instantly, with news outlets across the world picking up the story and running it as one of the top headlines. The public reaction was divided, as it often is in matters involving Meghan Markle. For some, the video confirmed long-standing suspicions about Meghan's true character, portraying her as a perfectionist with little regard for the feelings of others. For others, the video was simply an isolated incident blown out of proportion, an example of a woman under extreme pressure trying to ensure that her work was of the highest standard. On social media, the debate was fierce. Supporters of Meghan quickly came to her defense, arguing that what they saw in the video was not bullying, but rather a woman who was passionate about her work and wanted to make sure everything was done to her satisfaction. They pointed out that Hollywood sets are notoriously high-pressure environments, and that many actors and actresses act in ways that could be perceived as demanding. In their eyes, Meghan was simply doing what was necessary to ensure the quality of the production, and her behavior was no different from what could be expected from any other star in a leading role. On the other side, critics of Meghan seized on the video as proof of a deeper issue. They argued that the footage exposed Meghan as someone who was not the compassionate, charitable woman she often portrayed herself to be, but rather a person who was difficult to work with and who used her position of power to control those around her. Many saw the video as a glimpse into the real Meghan, an individual who was willing to step on others to get ahead, someone who was not as kind and graceful as she appeared in her public appearances. In the media, the coverage was intense. Some outlets presented the video as a shocking revelation, while others were more cautious, acknowledging that the footage alone couldn't be used to judge Meghan's character definitively. However, the broader narrative that took hold was one of a star who had become too accustomed to the spotlight, someone who had forgotten the importance of collaboration and teamwork. For Meghan, this public reaction was yet another challenge in a long line of controversies. She had already been the subject of public scrutiny for her departure from the royal family, her strained relationship with the press, and her outspoken opinions on social issues. The release of the video only added fuel to the fire, complicating her already fragile relationship with the media and the public. It also furthered the perception that Meghan was a polarizing figure, someone who evoked strong reactions, both positive and negative, from those who followed her story. Despite the backlash, Meghan remained relatively silent. In the days following the video's release, she chose not to address the controversy directly. Instead, she focused on her charity work and continued with her public engagements, maintaining the image of a dedicated advocate for social causes. While some may have expected Meghan to publicly defend herself against the accusations, she seemed to take a different approach, one of restraint, perhaps hoping the media attention would eventually die down. Her silence only fueled the debate further. Some saw her refusal to address the video as a sign of confidence. Meghan didn't feel the need to explain herself to anyone. Others interpreted it as a sign of guilt. Perhaps Meghan knew that the video was damaging and chose to ignore it rather than confront the reality of her actions. The longer she remained quiet, the more people speculated about her true feelings on the matter. The video also reignited discussions about Meghan's behavior both in the public and private spheres. For many, the footage was a stark contrast to the persona Meghan had cultivated in the public eye. She had been lauded for her advocacy, her charitable work, and her dedication to issues like women's rights and racial equality. The video, however, seemed to suggest a different side to her, a side that was more concerned with asserting control and demanding perfection than with fostering a collaborative and supportive environment. This public reaction wasn't just confined to the media and social platforms, it had real-world consequences as well. Meghan's professional relationships with colleagues, both in Hollywood and in the charity world, were likely affected by the leak. People in the industry were left to wonder if the woman they had worked with on set was the same woman who appeared in the video. Could they trust her? Was she someone they could work with in the future? These are the types of questions that can affect someone's career long-term, especially in an industry like Hollywood, where reputation and relationships matter more than almost anything else. The leaked video also served as a reminder of how the public views celebrities through a lens of expectation. Celebrities, especially those in the royal family, are often held to standards that others are not. Meghan had built a brand around being an approachable, empathetic, and caring individual. She had positioned herself as someone who cared deeply about the causes she championed, and her public persona was carefully crafted to reflect that. The video, however, showed a different side of her, a side that many found jarring and at odds with the image she had carefully curated. For Meghan's defenders, the video was a momentary lapse, an isolated incident that should not define her character. They argued that the pressures of Hollywood, combined with the constant media scrutiny she faced, had made her act in ways that were out of character. After all, no one is perfect, and even the most well-meaning individuals can lose their patience under intense pressure. For them, the video was a temporary misstep, not a reflection of Meghan's true nature. For her critics, however, the video was evidence of a pattern of behavior that had long been hinted at but never fully revealed. They saw it as a window into Meghan's true character, a glimpse behind the curtain of the carefully managed persona she had worked so hard to maintain. To them, the video confirmed that Meghan was not the woman she appeared to be, a woman who was willing to fight for the causes she believed in but unwilling to show the same consideration for those around her. The release of the video showing Meghan Markle's demanding and, at times, aggressive behavior on the set of Suits marked a turning point in her public image. For years, Meghan had carefully cultivated an image of herself as a compassionate, graceful, and socially conscious figure, someone who championed causes like gender equality, mental health, and social justice. She was seen as a modern-day icon, admired for her ability to navigate royal life while maintaining a sense of independence and individuality. But the video disrupted this carefully constructed narrative. It was a rare and unfiltered glimpse into a side of Meghan that was far less polished, far less approachable, and far more difficult to reconcile with the persona she had spent years building. The video's release sent shockwaves through the media, sparking debates about her character and the authenticity of her public image. The fallout from the video was immediate, and Meghan's career, already complicated by her departure from royal duties, was now under further scrutiny. The impact of the video on her professional life cannot be overstated. Celebrities rely heavily on their public image to secure work, build relationships, and maintain their relevance in a competitive industry. With a tarnished reputation, it becomes harder to maintain the same level of influence and opportunity. For Meghan, who had always been outspoken about her desire to break free from the constraints of royal life and pursue her own path. This moment of vulnerability was particularly damaging. Prior to the video's release, Meghan had positioned herself as a self-assured and independent woman who was taking charge of her own narrative. But now, with this new footage circulating widely, the carefully controlled image she had spent years cultivating began to crack. The public began to question whether the Meghan Markle they had seen advocating for change was the same person captured in the video, demanding and difficult to work with. Meghan's career, particularly in Hollywood, had been built on her charm, intelligence, and the way she balanced her celebrity status with a commitment to social causes. She was more than just an actress, she was a voice for change, an advocate for those who had been overlooked or silenced. Her work with the United Nations, her charity work, and her efforts to empower women had earned her admiration from both fans and colleagues alike. Meghan was seen as a new kind of celebrity. Someone who used her platform for good, someone who was not afraid to speak out against injustice, and someone who could inspire others to do the same. However, the release of the video forced many to reassess Meghan's authenticity. The video's portrayal of her as bossy and demanding created a stark contrast with the image of the kind and empathetic woman that Meghan had worked so hard to promote. For some, the video was a jarring reminder that celebrities, especially those who appear to have it all together, are often hiding imperfections. And for others, it was evidence of a deeper flaw in Meghan's character, one that suggested she was willing to use her position to control and manipulate situations to her advantage. Hollywood, much like the royal family, is a place where reputation is everything. Directors, producers, and other industry professionals depend on the public's perception of a star when deciding whether to hire them or not. An actor's reputation can significantly impact their career trajectory. If Meghan's reputation had been built on the idea of being a strong, independent woman who could navigate the challenges of fame and royalty with grace, the release of this video cast doubt on the authenticity of that persona. Her defenders argued that the video was an isolated incident, a moment captured during a stressful day on set. They pointed out that many actors, particularly those in leading roles, can become deeply invested in the success of a project and may occasionally come across as demanding or intense. They also highlighted the fact that Meghan had always been a perfectionist, someone who strived to do her best in every project she took on. From their perspective, the video was nothing more than a glimpse of a woman under pressure, someone who was not afraid to assert herself when she felt that things were not going according to plan. But her critics took the video as evidence of a deeper problem, one that had long been hinted at but never fully confirmed. To them, the footage revealed Meghan for what she really was, a woman who used her position to control others, a person who couldn't separate her professional ambitions from her personal desires. For these critics, the video served as a reminder that no one is above scrutiny, even those who present themselves as paragons of virtue and compassion. The damage to Meghan's career wasn't just about the video, it was about the larger narrative it fed into. Meghan had already been the subject of intense media scrutiny due to her departure from the royal family and her strained relationship with the British monarchy. The video only added fuel to the fire, further complicating her already complex relationship with the public. The timing of the video's release also played a role in the public reaction. Meghan had already been under fire for her decision to step away from royal duties, and her critics had been quick to label her as hypocritical, self-serving, and out of touch with the very people she claimed to be helping. The video seemed to confirm some of those criticisms. It painted a picture of Meghan as someone who was willing to push others aside to get what she wanted, whether that meant controlling a production set or demanding more from those around her. For Meghan's supporters, the video represented a momentary lapse, a brief moment of frustration in an otherwise successful career. But for her detractors, the video was a powerful piece of evidence that reinforced their belief that Meghan was not as genuine as she claimed to be. The video had not only damaged her public image, it had fueled the narrative of Meghan as someone who was willing to do whatever it took to maintain control over her own story, even at the expense of others. This crisis in Meghan's image was not just a temporary setback. It had long-term implications for her career. The public's perception of her had shifted, and the trust that had been built over the years was now in question. Would her career in Hollywood be affected by this incident? Would she be able to bounce back from the damage caused by the video, or would it haunt her for years to come? The answer, of course, is unclear. Meghan Markle is a complex and multifaceted individual, and her story is far from over. But one thing is certain. The release of this video has forever altered the way she is viewed by the public, and it will have a lasting impact on her career for years to come. In the aftermath of the video's release, Meghan Markle was faced with an overwhelming public backlash. The leaked footage, showing her behaving in a demanding and controlling manner on the set of Suits, sent shockwaves through both the media and her fan base. It cast doubt on the carefully curated image she had worked so hard to build, an image of a compassionate, poised, and selfless advocate for social causes. Suddenly, the public was forced to confront a different version of Meghan, one that seemed to contradict the persona she had spent years promoting. The fallout from the video's release was swift and intense. Media outlets, social media platforms, and even fellow celebrities were quick to weigh in on the situation. Some rallied behind Meghan, defending her actions as a result of stress and the pressures of fame, while others were less sympathetic, accusing her of using her position to bully and control those around her. The video left the public divided, with many unsure of what to believe. For Meghan, the release of the video was a deeply personal blow. She had always been under intense public scrutiny, but this was different. The video painted her in a light that didn't align with the persona she had crafted, a woman who was outspoken in her commitment to social justice, a mother who wanted the best for her children, and a public figure who had long advocated for kindness and empathy. The behavior in the video was a far cry from the image of grace and warmth that Meghan had spent years building. Meghan's response to the controversy was one of careful silence. In the immediate aftermath of the video's release, she refrained from making any public statements or addressing the video directly. This silence only fueled the media frenzy, with many speculating that Meghan was too ashamed or embarrassed to confront the accusations head-on. Some saw her silence as a sign of guilt. Perhaps Meghan knew the video exposed a side of her that she had tried to hide for years. Others, however, interpreted it as a sign of strength, believing that Meghan didn't feel the need to justify herself to anyone. In the days that followed, Meghan's representatives issued a brief statement expressing disappointment over the leak but did not comment on the specifics of the video itself. They reiterated that the footage was taken out of context and suggested that it did not accurately reflect Meghan's character. The statement acknowledged that Meghan could be intense and demanding at times, but emphasized that this was due to her passion for her work and her commitment to achieving the best results. Meghan, the statement implied, was simply someone who held herself and those around her to high standards. While her team tried to contain the damage, the public's perception of Meghan was already shifting. The video, combined with the ongoing media coverage of her departure from royal duties, painted a picture of someone who was struggling to navigate the pressures of fame and the expectations placed on her. Meghan had always been a divisive figure, but the video seemed to confirm some of the more negative perceptions of her, perceptions that she had worked hard to deflect. As the controversy simmered, Meghan made her first public appearance since the release of the video. She appeared at a charity event in Los Angeles, where she was scheduled to speak about her work with women's rights and social justice. The media attention was intense, with journalists and photographers eager to catch a glimpse of Meghan and to hear her take on the recent scandal. At the event, Meghan was composed and confident, just as she had been in the past. She gave a powerful speech about the importance of advocating for women's rights and the need for greater equality in the world. She didn't address the video directly, but her message seemed to resonate with those in attendance. Meghan's fans cheered her on, reaffirming their support for her. However, the absence of a direct response to the video was noticed by many. Meghan's refusal to engage with the controversy head-on was both a calculated move and a reflection of her approach to handling public scrutiny. Throughout her career, Meghan had often taken the high road, choosing not to engage in public feuds or confrontations. Instead, she focused on her work, letting her actions speak for themselves. In this instance, her silence spoke volumes. Some saw Meghan's refusal to address the video as an indication that she was above the fray, that she didn't feel the need to explain herself to anyone. Others saw it as a missed opportunity to clear the air and take ownership of the situation. Regardless of how one interpreted her silence, it was clear that Meghan was not going to let the video define her. Over the following weeks, Meghan's team continued to issue statements defending her, but she herself remained quiet on the matter. The video, it seemed, was not going to be the defining moment in her career that many had expected it to be. Instead, Meghan refocused her efforts on her charity work, continuing to advocate for women's rights, education, and social justice. But even as Meghan moved forward, the shadow of the video lingered. The public's perception of her had changed, and it was unclear if she would ever fully recover from the fallout. For some, the video was just a blip in the timeline of Meghan's life, an isolated incident that didn't reflect her true character. For others, however, it was a glimpse into a side of Meghan that they had never seen before. In the end, Meghan's response to the controversy was a reminder that public figures are often judged by standards that are impossible to meet. No matter how carefully they craft their image, no matter how hard they work to maintain their public personas, they are still human. And in Meghan's case, the video revealed that even the most polished, well-rehearsed figures can have moments of weakness or frustration. The release of the video showing Meghan Markle's demanding behavior on the set of Suits not only ignited public controversy, but it also raised significant legal and ethical questions about the rights to privacy, consent, and the role of family members in a public feud. The fact that Thomas Markle, Meghan's estranged father, was the one to release the video added an extra layer of complexity to the situation, stirring further debate about the motives behind the leak and the boundaries of family loyalty versus personal vendetta. In any situation where private material is made public, the legal implications are vast. The video was not intended for public consumption. It was filmed behind the scenes on a movie set, likely as part of a private working environment. Typically, footage captured on set is considered the property of the production company and may be used or archived for internal purposes. The act of releasing such private footage, especially when it was not meant to be shared outside the production team, raised questions about whether there had been a violation of confidentiality agreements or contracts that the actors, crew, or others involved with the production had signed. For Meghan, the release of the video was a breach of privacy. While public figures are often subject to more scrutiny than private individuals, there are still boundaries when it comes to the sharing of private moments. The video, though it did not show any illegal or immoral behavior, depicted a side of Meghan that was not in line with the public image she had worked hard to cultivate. It was, at its core, an invasion of privacy, a private moment taken out of context and shared without her consent. In most Hollywood productions, confidentiality agreements and non-disclosure agreements, NDAs, are standard practice. These agreements are designed to protect the interests of the production and the people involved in it, ensuring that behind-the-scenes activities remain confidential unless there is explicit permission to share them. The fact that this footage was made public could potentially open up a legal can of worms regarding the terms of such contracts, and whether or not they were breached in the process of releasing the video. However, the ethical implications of releasing the video are perhaps more complex than the legal ones. The ethical questions surrounding the release of the video primarily focus on the role of family members in the public and private lives of celebrities. Thomas Markle's decision to release the footage has been widely criticized, especially by those who view it as a personal attack on his daughter. While it's clear that Thomas had his own grievances with Meghan, stemming from their fractured relationship, it's also clear that he chose to make this private footage public in a moment of emotional distress, and possibly with the intent to embarrass or expose his daughter. From an ethical standpoint, there's a fine line between standing up for oneself and crossing the boundary of personal responsibility. While Thomas Markle may have felt justified in his actions due to his strained relationship with Meghan, releasing the video for public consumption placed a strain on their already tenuous relationship, potentially further damaging his credibility as a concerned father. His decision to leak the video was not just a personal matter. It was an attempt to influence the narrative about Meghan, one that placed a wedge between the private family drama and the public spectacle that had been created. The question of whether Thomas Markle had the right to release the video also touches on the issue of privacy versus the public's right to know. Celebrities, particularly those in the public eye as Meghan Markle is, are often subjected to a higher level of scrutiny than private citizens. But that does not necessarily mean that every aspect of their lives is open for public consumption. The video, though not inherently damaging in a criminal sense, revealed a side of Meghan that was never intended to be exposed. It raised the question of whether Thomas's actions were justified by his personal grievances, or whether it was simply an act of retribution aimed at his daughter for cutting him off. On the other hand, some argue that Thomas had every right to share the video as a way of defending himself and telling his side of the story. His strained relationship with Meghan had been public for years, and he had been vocal in the media about his feelings of being cast aside. From his perspective, the video might have been seen as an opportunity to show that Meghan's public image didn't match the reality of her behavior. While many would argue that his decision to release the video was a breach of family loyalty, others might contend that it was a necessary step for him to take control of the narrative about his own relationship with Meghan. One key aspect of this controversy is the timing of the video's release. The video surfaced during a period of heightened media interest in Meghan and Prince Harry's lives. The couple's departure from royal duties had already garnered significant media attention, and the video added fuel to the ongoing fire of speculation surrounding Meghan's true nature. By releasing the video at that specific moment, Thomas Markle ensured that the footage would be seen by millions of people, potentially damaging Meghan's public image at a time when she was already facing criticism for her royal exit and other personal matters. The timing of the leak suggested that it wasn't just about the video itself, it was about adding to the narrative of Meghan as a divisive and controversial figure. It was a calculated move, one that made sure the video wouldn't just be seen by a few people, but rather by the entire world. The video was strategically timed to align with the negative media coverage that Meghan was already experiencing, and this made the leak feel less like an innocent mistake and more like a deliberate attempt to bring her down. From a legal perspective, there were also questions about the rights of the production company that had filmed the footage. While the video itself may have been captured as part of the production process, the footage was not meant to be shared publicly. The production company and crew members who were involved in the filming may have had their own legal standing in regard to the release of such material. If the footage was confidential, then the release of the video could have violated the legal agreements that were in place to protect the privacy of those involved. Ultimately, the decision to release the video raised important questions about the role of privacy in the digital age. In an era where personal moments are often captured and shared without consent, the boundaries between public and private life are becoming increasingly blurred. While public figures like Meghan Markle are often the subject of media attention, there is still an ethical responsibility to consider when it comes to the release of private material. In the case of Meghan's video, the release may have been legal, but it was certainly not ethical. The decision to share private footage of a family member, especially